Let's start off in Tennessee, where they've expelled some peaceful protesters. And not just the peaceful protesters, but the people who were the representatives who were backing it. Justin Jones and Justin Pearson, a couple of Justins, uh, have been kicked out of the legislature because they were part of a protest. People came to the town, to the uh, government. They were protesting, and these guys protested with them. I mean, it's just direct involvement within the First Amendment. Uh, we've got the actual bills right here. Permanent rules, not crowd. Okay, so this is what they did to get them kicked out. They didn't preserve order, adhere to decorum, speaking only with recognition, and crowding around the clerk's desk, avoiding personalities, and using props to display political messages. Oh no. Sounds terrible. Except it's not. They were just protesting the state of Tennessee not doing anything about gun violence. Do they have... See, okay. Do the Republicans in Tennessee have any ideas or plans for taking care of the gun violence? I don't think they do. Senate panel, the first gun bills. No. Yeah, they're not going to change anything. So there are people standing on the door of the legislature saying, change the rules, do something, do something, do something, and they're doing nothing. So then these two guys participate in some protests and they get kicked out. Republicans scream at me all the time online about how it's a mental health issue. It's not a gun issue. It's not a gun. Not the guns. Not the guns, they say at the top of their lungs. It's all mental health. Where's your mental health bill? What is your plan for improving the mental health? They have nothing. And when you have nothing, eventually people get fed up and start doing protests. So these guys have used their First Amendment to protest the government, and the government has thrown them out because they didn't preserve order or adhere to decorum. Well, that's what protests are supposed to do. Protests are not supposed to preserve order and adhere to decorum. They're supposed to disrupt. They're supposed to be irritating. You're supposed to dislike the fact that a protest is happening. What do you think of this?
I think that they I don't have a problem with it. I mean, they did go up without being recognized where they didn't belong and pulled out a megaphone and led protests that shut down the chamber for an hour or so.
Yes, they did.
So yeah, that'd be, I'd say, grounds for expulsion.
Okay. According to their rules within the House, that probably is grounds for expulsion. And so they did it. And it's gonna backfire. That's not how
Maybe.
That's not how the normies are going to see it. They're going to see it as two black Democrats for expelled for a peaceful protest. That's the way the normies are going to see it. That's the way
I think it's a little unconscionable to put it that way as well. I mean, yes, the 60-year-old white woman didn't get expelled, but she didn't get expelled by one vote. And it was, what, 5 votes that flipped from expelling one of them to not expelling her.
Hmm.
They've been in the Tennessee Congress for 1 year.
Right.
She has been in the Tennessee Congress for 11. So I'm assuming that she's at least managed to make 5 friends
Okay.
in the Congress,
Uh,
which I think would probably account for the flipping of 5 votes.
okay. Um,
I don't think it has
I
anything to do with the color of their skins.
I hope it doesn't. It's impossible to tell, but it can look that way and will be spun that way, obviously, by the press because it is right here.
Sure. Well, also, when she got up uh, and defended herself in the hearing for the resolutions for the expulsion, she also, I think, was the only one to actually deny any of the allegations, which she said she never shouted.
Okay.
But the other 2 guys were using a megaphone.
Okay. They're it's suggested they weren't preserving order, adhering to decorum, speaking. They spoke without recognition, and they crowded the clerk's desk. They didn't avoid the personalities. And they were not using. They were using props and displaying political messages. I think this is great. I think what they
It,
did is falls within protest. And yeah, you're not allowed to protest within that space, which is fine. And the House has the uh, bylaws and rules and resolutions to remove them. But I think what they did is good. They have hundreds of people there protesting, and they represented their constituency. The people want the government to do a thing, and the government is doing nothing. So the people are frustrated, and these Justins are also frustrated. Yes, they've been there for a year, but they are the young people. I think it's not about black. I honestly don't. I think it's about young. I think it's about the youth of that Justin right there. Look how young he is. He's younger than both of us,
I don't
and
think that it's
he's
about the youth. I mean that their youth is a necessary factor in the fact that they've only been in the house for a year. I think if they were 20 years older and they had only been in the house since last year, they
mhm.
still would have been expelled for doing exactly what they did because they don't have the connections to pull off a vote flip.
If they
That
were 20 years older, they wouldn't have done what they did.
well, that's probably true too.
I think if they
I'm just saying
were,
if they were 20 years older and they still only had 1 year, they probably still would have been expelled.
yeah, I think they
So
would
not
have.
about them being young. It's
Well,
about
the actions that they took are
they
about
took
their youth.
actions, and the actions that they took, they didn't have the connections in the house yet to pull it off and avoid expulsion as a
Hmm.
result.
And what do we think of the actual protests?
Well, there are protests for more gun control, right?
Some of the people want that. Yeah, they want something done. Um, these
Didn't the Tennessee
guys
House pass a bill in
don't
response to the shooting?
don't think so. But I will. But I do not know. The bill does not restrict access to firearms. Um, includes requiring additional emergency drills in both public and private schools and increasing security with state local law enforcement. The bill does not restrict access to firearms. Um, a bill that requires that they lock the doors and conduct annual incident command bus safety drills and require new built public school facilities to install classroom door locks and secure visitor entry vestibules. Uh, if they had this in the works, and these people are protesting. Why not just like tell them about it? I don't know. I think they did a bad job of explaining, but um,
What I want to know is
oh,
why
there's more.
didn't they? Yeah, why didn't the why didn't the three people that disrupted the proceedings know that this bill was in the works?
They
Because it was
might have,
filed.
but they
And if they
wanted
knew, then why would they go up and do
to
what they
restrict
did?
fire access to firearms. This is
Well,
this sentence right here is the problem that they have with it.
okay.
So yes, it's entirely possible that they knew this was in the works, and their problem is that it does not restrict access to firearms.
I mean, sorry.
Sorry. Well, we'll just
They're
keep
not gonna
fucking
get.
getting shot. Kids will just keep dying. It'll be fine. If, and I said it before you came on, if Republicans have been screaming at me, not the guns, not the guns, not the guns, it's not the guns, it's not the guns, it's mental health. Where's their mental health plan? Where's their bill addressing mental health? There never is one.
Good question. Where is it?
Where is it? This doesn't mention it at all. This talks about doors and floor plans and private security guards. Turning schools more into prisons.
Um, I don't think they're prisons.
You got man traps and doors that have to be opened and open up 17, bzzzt, and then the door to 17 opens up and then all the children file out.
Well, I think the purpose of the school is a lot different from the purpose of the prison.
The purpose is, but we're going to build them the same way.
Well, prisons are generally very secure.
Right. They're also very limiting and what's the word? Uh, Confined. You know. Um, I understand why these guys did it, and I think that I like that they did it because protests are not supposed to be pleasant. Protests are not supposed to preserve the order or decorum. Protests are not supposed to be calm and pleasant. You're supposed to make people upset. They're supposed to be unhappy with the protests. The You've said in the past that the government should fear its people. Well,
Uh-huh.
the government should also fear its people when they're protesting, not only when they're shooting at them. They should be uh, inconvenienced by their constituents who are protesting.
Well, this whole expulsion is not because of a protest. It's because these guys disrupted the House floor
With a protest, in a protest,
as sitting members of the House.
as part of the protest, yes.
If they had gone out and protested outside with everybody else, then they would not have been expelled.
They did that too, but they did
It's not about the
bringing the
stuff they did
protest in.
outside, though.
I know bringing the protest
This
in is what got them expelled, which I think is awesome. Bring the protest in. I 100% support the idea. Bring the protest in.
okay. I mean, we just disagree, I think.
That's okay. I mean, if the people are confined to the free speech zone, and the free speech zone is not next to the legislature, and it's far away, and the legislature isn't bothered or notice or have anything in common with the free speech zone, then your protest is worthless. I am glad that they are in the state house yelling and screaming. And I'm glad that the state representatives have to hear it. And I'm glad these guys brought it in.
I just don't think it really works that way. I mean, if you just allow people to go in and shut down proceedings whenever they like, You can't have that.
I recognize that the constant protest would not allow them to function. Um,
So, at what point do you say you're not allowed to protest anymore on here,
um,
or
I
do you
think
just say you can't do it at all?
I think what happened here is fine. I think the Justins were highly upset and highly motivated by their constituents and those protesters, and they went in
Hmm.
there and they made some ruckus, and they got expelled for it. I think that's acceptable. If you protest and you get arrested, that's acceptable to me. Like, I'm not saying you shouldn't be arrested for protesting. Sometimes, if you're breaking things, if you're causing a disruption, arrest is acceptable. Um, then they face these consequences, which are the expulsion, and then they get their name all over the news, and then their name gets all over the news, and then the people pay attention, and then you and I talk about it, and then the people who are listening to us hear what issue is so important to them that they got expelled. They are bringing light, they're bringing attention, they're making everybody pay attention, they're making things happen, and hopefully, because of that, the Tennessee House then passes school safety bills. Maybe these guys made it work better. Hopefully, we can't really know. They're going to be back. Majority of Nashville Council members say they will vote to reinstate the expelled legislator. So now that they are expelled, what happens is that the Nashville City Council votes to find a replacement, and they're going to vote for him, which is why I
I've
think
seen a
that.
little bit about this. That that may be the case and may not.
Mhm,
It might be the case that Tennessee, I think, is their 113th Congress right now,
mhm,
and they've been expelled from the 113th. So there is the possibility that they can't come back until the 114th.
mhm.
So that's going to be a legal thing.
Entirely possible. Um, and I think there would the other option is to like have a special election, which this guy would run in, and since his name is all over the news, he would win.
That could be a possibility as well.
Under the Tennessee state constitution, an interim successor can be appointed by the legislative body of the expelled member's county until a special election is held. For Jones, that's Nashville, the Nashville Council, which is the legislative body of the city and Davidson County consolidated government, is officially a nonpartisan body. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. They are going to vote for him until a special election can be held in which he will run and he will win. And then he will be back in the thing. And um, he just became very, very popular. Oh, hi. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you liked what you saw, hit the like button, press the subscribe button. Uh, if you want to tell me how right I am, feel free to leave a comment. If you want to tell me how wrong I am, leave a comment too. That's good. Um, this is just kind of a hobby for me, so I appreciate you coming by, giving it a watch, and pressing the YouTube buttons. Thanks.